It's December 1970, and I'm sitting here at my kitchen table writing in this journal after finally getting all 3 kids to bed. My name is Patricia Coleman. I'm 28 years old, and my husband Jim has been deployed in Vietnam for 8 months now. When people ask me how I'm managing to raise 7-year-old Tommy, 5-year-old Susan, and 3-year-old little Bobby all by myself, I tell them we're doing just fine. But the truth is, some days I don't know how we're making it through. What I'm learning, though, is that I'm stronger than I ever knew I could be. I'm discovering parts of myself that I never had to use when Jim was here to take care of everything. This morning started like most mornings since Jim left for his tour of duty. Bobby woke up crying at 5:30 a.m. because he had wet the bed again, something that started happening right after Daddy went away. While I was stripping his sheets and getting him cleaned up, Susan wandered into the kitchen asking for breakfast, and Tommy was complaining that he couldn't find his school clothes. For just a moment, standing there in my bathrobe with 3 children all needing different things at the same time, I felt that familiar wave of overwhelm wash over me. "Mama, why can't Daddy come home and help us?" Susan asked as I poured cereal into her bowl, and I had to take a deep breath before answering. How do you explain to a 5-year-old that sometimes grown-ups have to go far away to do important work, even when it means leaving their families? How do you help children understand something that you're still struggling to understand yourself? "Daddy is doing his job to help keep us safe," I told her, repeating the words I've said so many times they almost feel automatic now. "He loves us very much and thinks about us every single day. And while he's gone, Mama is here to take care of you and your brothers." But even as I said it, I was thinking about the letter I received yesterday, Jim's first communication in 3 weeks, and how tired and worried he sounded when he wrote about missing us and wondering if we were okay without him. The hardest part isn't just managing the daily routines of feeding, bathing, and getting the children where they need to be. It's being the only adult in the house when things go wrong, when decisions need to be made, when the kids are sick or scared or acting out because they miss their father. Last week, Tommy got into a fight at school and came home with a black eye. When the principal called to discuss his behavior, I had to handle that conversation alone, figure out what was causing my normally well-behaved son to get aggressive with other children. "Mrs. Coleman, Tommy seems to be having some adjustment difficulties," Mrs. Henderson, his teacher, told me during our conference. "He's been talking about his father being in the war, and I think he's carrying some anxiety about that situation. Have you considered counseling or some kind of support for military families?" I nodded and took notes, but inside I was thinking that I didn't even know such support existed, and I certainly didn't know how to find it or afford it on the Army allowance we're living on. The money situation is probably what keeps me awake at night more than anything else. Jim's military pay seemed adequate when he was here and working his part-time job at the garage on weekends. But now, with just his deployment pay and the small family allowance, every month is a careful calculation of rent, groceries, utilities, and the unexpected expenses that always seem to come up when you have 3 young children. Last month, Bobby needed medicine for an ear infection. Susan outgrew her winter coat, and our old washing machine finally broke down completely. I never imagined I would become the woman who cuts coupons out of every newspaper and magazine, who shops at 3 different grocery stores to find the best prices, who has learned to fix a leaky faucet and unclog a drain because we can't afford to call a repairman for every little thing. Before Jim deployed, I had been a traditional housewife who took care of the children and the cooking while he handled everything else. The finances, the house maintenance, the decisions about schools and discipline and future plans. The transformation has been gradual but undeniable. 3 months ago, when the car started making strange noises, I would have panicked and called my father or Jim's brother to come help. Instead, I found myself driving to the public library with all 3 kids in tow, checking out a book about basic car maintenance, and actually figuring out that I needed to add oil and replace a worn belt. "Look, Mama fixed the car," Tommy announced proudly to our neighbor, Mrs. Williams, and I felt a surge of accomplishment that was completely new to me. The children have been changing too, in ways that break my heart and make me proud at the same time. Tommy has become my little helper, automatically setting the table and making sure his younger siblings have their shoes on before we leave the house. "I'm the man of the house while Daddy's gone," he told me seriously last week, and I had to fight back tears at hearing my 7-year-old take on responsibilities that no child should have to carry. Susan has become incredibly independent, dressing herself every morning and even helping Bobby with his clothes when he gets frustrated with buttons and zippers. But she's also become clingy in the evenings, wanting to sleep in my bed because she has bad dreams about something happening to Daddy or to me. "What if you go away too, Mama?" she asked me just last night. And I realized that my children are living with fears and anxieties that most kids their age never have to think about. Little Bobby, who was barely talking when Jim left, has started asking questions that show how much he's processing about our situation. When Daddy comes home, will he remember how to play trucks with me? He wanted to know yesterday. Will he still know my favorite story? These innocent questions remind me daily that this separation isn't just hard on me. It's shaping my children's understanding of family, security, and what it means to have a father. Before you continue this powerful story of resilience, family strength, and personal growth with us, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales about the women who held families together during America's most challenging times and discovered their own incredible capabilities in the process. The support system I've had to build from scratch has been both surprising and essential to our survival. When Jim was here, we were pretty isolated socially. His work friends were mostly single guys, and I'd been too busy with the children to develop close friendships with other mothers. But necessity has forced me to reach out and connect with other military wives who are going through similar experiences. There's Mary Patterson down the street, whose husband is also deployed, and who has become my lifeline for everything from borrowing a cup of sugar to having someone to call when I need to vent about the challenges of single parenting. We've started an informal babysitting cooperative where we take turns watching each other's children, so we can run errands, or just have an hour of quiet time to write letters to our husbands or read a book. The routine we've established has become our anchor in the uncertainty of this deployment. Every morning after breakfast, I walk Tommy to school while pushing Bobby in the stroller and holding Susan's hand. The other mothers at the school pickup have become familiar faces, and several of them have gone out of their way to include us in birthday parties and play dates, understanding that military families need extra community support. Evenings are our family time, when we read stories together, work on simple puzzles, and most importantly, record messages for Daddy on the small tape recorder that Jim's mother sent us. "Tell Daddy about your day," I'll prompt the children, and they'll chatter excitedly into the microphone about their adventures, their questions, their hopes that he'll be home soon. When I mail these tapes to Jim, along with the letters I write after the children are asleep, I feel like we're maintaining our connection as a family despite the thousands of miles between us. The winter months have been particularly challenging, not just because of the cold and the increased utility bills, but because the holidays highlighted Jim's absence in ways that were almost unbearable. Christmas morning, watching the children open their presents while looking toward the door hopefully, as if Santa might have brought Daddy home along with their toys, nearly broke my heart. I had to excuse myself to the bathroom to cry for a few minutes before coming back to help them with their new games and books. But I'm also discovering reserves of creativity and resourcefulness that I never knew I possessed. When money was too tight for the Christmas presents the children were hoping for, I learned to sew and made Susan a beautiful doll dress, taught myself to build a wooden toy box for Bobby, and found a used bicycle that I cleaned up and painted for Tommy. The pride in their faces when they realized Mama had made these special gifts herself was worth more than anything I could have bought in a store. The practical skills I've had to develop out of necessity continue to amaze me. Last month, when the heating system started acting up on the coldest night of the year, I didn't have the luxury of waiting for a repairman or calling a male relative to rescue us. Instead, I bundled up the children, went down to the basement with a flashlight, and actually figured out how to relight the pilot light that had gone out. "Mama, you're like a superhero," Bobby declared, when warm air started flowing through the vents again. Managing the household finances has been perhaps the biggest learning curve of all. Jim had always handled the checkbook, the bills, and any major purchases. Now I'm the one creating budgets, comparing insurance options, figuring out tax implications, and making decisions about everything from which shoes the children need, to whether we can afford to repair the vacuum cleaner or need to buy a used one. The sense of independence that comes from understanding our financial situation and knowing I can manage it competently has been unexpectedly empowering. The emotional challenges have been just as significant as the practical ones. There are nights when I lie awake worrying about Jim's safety, wondering if the next phone call might bring terrible news, feeling the weight of being solely responsible for 3 young lives while dealing with my own fears and uncertainties. The loneliness can be overwhelming sometimes, especially in those quiet moments after the children are asleep, when I'm most aware of Jim's empty chair at the dinner table and his side of the bed that stays cold. But I'm also experiencing moments of profound satisfaction and confidence that I never felt when I was depending on Jim to handle all the difficult aspects of adult life. When Tommy's teacher complimented me on how well adjusted he's been despite his father's deployment, when Susan learned to tie her shoes because I took the time to teach her patiently, when Bobby started sleeping through the night again, because I developed a bedtime routine that helped him feel secure. These victories feel entirely my own, in ways that shared successes never did. The letters from Jim have become both the highlight and the hardest part of each week. When one arrives, I read it privately first, sometimes crying over his descriptions of missing our daily routines, his worries about us, his expressions of love and longing to be home. Then I share the appropriate parts with the children, helping them understand Daddy's love while protecting them from his fears and the details of his dangerous work. Writing back to him, I try to balance honesty about our challenges with reassurance that we're managing well and that he shouldn't worry about us while he needs to focus on staying safe. "Patricia, you sound different in your letters," Jim wrote last month. "Stronger, more confident. I'm proud of you for everything you're handling, but I'm also a little worried that you won't need me as much when I come home. Are you changing in ways that will change us?" His question has stayed with me because it touches on something I've been thinking about, but haven't known how to articulate. I am changing, becoming more self-reliant and capable, discovering strengths I didn't know I had. But I'm not becoming someone who doesn't need or want a partner. I'm becoming someone who chooses partnership from a position of strength, rather than dependence. The community of military wives has taught me that what I'm experiencing is both common and transformative for many women whose husbands deploy. "We all discover we're stronger than we thought," explained Carol Martinez, whose husband is on his 2nd tour in Vietnam and who has become something of a mentor to newer military wives like me. The question is whether we can hold on to that strength while also welcoming our husbands back into our lives and families when they return. Some of the wives I've talked to express worry about how their marriages will change when their husbands come home to wives who have become more independent and children who have adapted to different routines and relationships. Others see it as an opportunity to build partnerships based on mutual respect and shared capability, rather than traditional role divisions that never really fit their personalities or circumstances. The children's development during this time has been remarkable to witness. Tommy has become genuinely helpful around the house, not just doing chores because he's asked to, but noticing what needs to be done and taking initiative. Susan has developed a nurturing quality that shows up in how she cares for her dolls and helps with Bobby, while also becoming more assertive about her own needs and preferences. Bobby, despite being only 3, has become surprisingly adaptable and resilient, rolling with changes in routine and showing affection freely to the extended family and friends who have become part of our support system. "Mrs. Coleman, your children are really thriving despite the challenging circumstances," observed Dr. Peterson during Bobby's routine checkup. "They're clearly getting excellent care and feeling secure in their family relationships. Whatever you're doing is working very well." Comments like these give me confidence that my instincts about parenting are sound and that the extra attention and consistency I've been providing are helping the children not just survive this separation, but actually grow from it, The spring months have brought new energy and optimism to our household. The longer days and warmer weather mean more time outside, more opportunities for the children to play with neighborhood friends, and lower heating bills that give us a little more breathing room in the budget. I've started a small vegetable garden in our backyard, partly to save money on groceries, and partly to teach the children about growing things and taking care of living plants. "Look, Mama, the tomatoes are getting big," Susan announced excitedly yesterday, and I realized that this garden has become a symbol of our ability to nurture and create something beautiful, even in the middle of difficult circumstances. When Jim comes home, we'll have fresh vegetables to share with him, and the children will be able to show him something they helped create while he was gone. As I write this in late December 1970, it's been over a year since Jim left for Vietnam, and I can honestly say that the woman writing these words is not the same person who tearfully waved goodbye at the airport 13 months ago. That woman was scared, dependent, unsure of her ability to handle adult responsibilities without constant support and guidance. This woman has successfully managed a household, raised 3 children through significant challenges, developed new skills and confidence, and created a life that works for our family even under difficult circumstances. The news that Jim's deployment has been extended for an additional 6 months was devastating when it first arrived, but I've surprised myself with how quickly I shifted from despair to practical planning. Instead of falling apart at the prospect of another half year of single parenting, I found myself thinking about what we would need to adjust, what goals I wanted to accomplish during those months, and how to prepare the children for the continued separation. The resilience I've developed feels solid and reliable now, not fragile or temporary. The relationship with the children has evolved in ways that I think will benefit our family permanently. Instead of being the mother who handled daily care while Daddy was the authority figure and decision maker, I've become both nurturer and leader, both comfort and guidance. Tommy still asks about Daddy constantly and clearly misses having a male role model in the house, but he also turns to me for advice about school problems, friend conflicts, and questions about growing up that he never would have brought to me when Jim was here to handle boy problems. Susan has begun to see me as someone capable of anything, not just cooking and cleaning, but also fixing broken toys, making important decisions, and handling whatever challenges come up. My mama can do everything, she told her kindergarten class during a presentation about families, according to her teacher. She takes care of me and my brothers, and she's really strong and smart. Hearing that feedback made me realize that I'm modeling female strength and capability for my daughter in ways that will shape her understanding of what women can accomplish. Little Bobby, who is now 4 and much more verbal, has developed the closest relationship with me of all 3 children, partly because he's been most dependent on me during his crucial early years. But he's also become remarkably independent for his age, able to entertain himself, help with simple tasks, and express his needs clearly. When other people comment on how well-behaved and confident he is, I feel proud of the consistency and attention I've been able to provide despite the challenging circumstances. The financial management skills I've developed have given me a sense of security and competence that I never expected to value so highly. I now understand our budget completely, have savings accounts set up for each child's future education, and have even started a small emergency fund by carefully managing our grocery and household expenses. When Jim returns, I want to be a full partner in financial decisions, rather than someone who simply spends money without understanding where it comes from or how it fits into our larger goals. The community connections I've built have become one of the most positive aspects of this entire experience. The network of military families, neighborhood mothers, school parents, and even local business owners who have supported us has shown me the importance of being connected to something larger than just our nuclear family. When Jim comes home, I want to maintain these relationships and continue contributing to the mutual support system that has made such a difference in our lives. The personal growth I've experienced goes beyond just practical skills and parenting confidence. I've discovered that I'm someone who can handle crisis situations calmly, make difficult decisions independently, and maintain optimism and energy even when circumstances are challenging. These qualities were probably always part of my personality, but I never had the opportunity or necessity to develop them when I was focused primarily on supporting Jim's goals and decisions rather than taking initiative myself. The letters I write to Jim now are different from the ones I wrote in the early months of his deployment. Instead of focusing mainly on how much I miss him and how difficult everything is without him, I'm sharing accomplishments, describing problems I've solved, and including the children in planning for his return. "I can't wait to show you everything we've learned and created while you've been gone," I wrote in my most recent letter. "We're not just surviving until you come home. We're growing and building a life that will be even better when you're part of it again." The anticipation of Jim's eventual return brings both excitement and some anxiety about how we'll all readjust to being a complete family again. The children have developed routines and relationships with me that will need to expand to include Daddy again. I've become comfortable making all the decisions and managing all aspects of our household, which will need to shift back to shared responsibility and partnership. Most importantly, I've discovered aspects of myself that I want to maintain and continue developing, even when I'm no longer forced to be completely self-reliant. The conversations I've had with other military wives whose husbands have returned from deployment have helped me prepare for the adjustment period that lies ahead. "It's wonderful to have them home," explained Linda Foster, whose husband completed his tour last month. "But it takes time to figure out how to be a team again when everyone has changed during the separation. The key is being patient with each other and communicating about what you've learned and how you want things to work going forward. Some aspects of our current life will definitely improve when Jim returns. Having another adult to share parenting responsibilities, financial pressures, and household management will be an enormous relief. But other aspects of what we've built during his absence are valuable enough that I want to preserve them. The children's independence and helpfulness, my own confidence and capability, the strong connections we've developed with our community. These are positive changes that have grown out of challenging circumstances. The woman I've become during this deployment is someone I respect and admire in ways that the pre-deployment Patricia never inspired in herself. I've proven that I can handle whatever life presents, that I can provide stability and leadership for my family, that I can solve problems and make good decisions under pressure. These discoveries about my own strength and capability will be part of who I am for the rest of my life, regardless of what other challenges or changes we face as a family. When people ask me how I've managed to raise 3 children alone while my husband was in Vietnam, I tell them that I discovered I was stronger than I ever knew I could be. But the more complete answer is that I discovered I was always strong. I just never had the opportunity or necessity to develop and rely on that strength before. This deployment forced me to find resources within myself that I didn't know existed, and accessing those resources has changed my understanding of what I'm capable of accomplishing. The year 1970 will always be remembered in our family as the year Mama learned she could do anything, the year the children learned to be independent and helpful, the year we built a support system that sustained us through difficult times. When Jim comes home, we'll be welcoming him back into a family that has grown stronger, more capable, and more connected to our community. We'll still need and want him as our husband and father, but we'll be choosing partnership from a position of strength rather than accepting it from a position of dependence. Looking back on this experience, I understand that raising 3 children alone while my husband served in Vietnam wasn't just about surviving until he returned. It was about discovering who I could become when circumstances demanded that I step into my full potential as a woman, a mother, and a leader of our family. The strength I found wasn't temporary or situational. It was always there, waiting for the right moment to emerge and transform, not just how I handled challenges, but how I understood my own capabilities and worth.